Welcome back to JRG Guitars Up Today, another episode in our headless guitar build from the Pango supplier out of China. In our last episode, we had done a lot of staining and some sanding and prep work to the body, so it was ready to start to accept more finish, and now we're ready to apply that finish. We're going to start by applying some sanding sealer to the body just to lock in that stain where we have it and sort of lock the wood in so we can progress through to then a clear coat on top of it. There'll be some sanding in between those applications of sanding sealer, and then once we get it nice and smoothed out, we'll move to a poly finish, a clear coat. So we're going to be spraying that on through my spray gun, and again, we'll apply poly and then some sanding, poly sanding, and then ultimately wet sanding and get this thing up to a nice high gloss finish. We're also going to do a little bit of fret work, which is always somewhat tedious, but a learning process every time just to get the process down, to get those frets leveled, nicely crowned, and real shiny. So we're going to go through all that process on this video, coming right at you. All right, so we pick it up here out in Mother Nature's spray booth. So putting on some sanding sealer, and we're just going to coat this thing up and lock in that stain right where we had it, so that we can really go forward with it. After a few coats of sanding sealer, I come in with some sandpaper and just knock down some little high spots and little dust and bugs that might have got on there. After those coats of sanding sealer, I come back out, and now I've got some polyurethane clear coat in the gun, and we're going ahead and coating the body with multiple coats there to build up a finish.
So here we are, I've gone through and just dotted, and now it's dried for a couple of days with a little bit of this poly, and we're going to scrape it off and sand it down and see if we need yet a little more fill.
So coming in here, this was a very tedious process. Some sandpaper, a razor blade, using it like a scraper. At some points even turning it on the side and just scraping a little bit off, trying to get that buildup of poly that I got in nice and flat, and then back out for another top coat.
So here we are with another coat of poly on there. I can see through here where I still have some bumps where I did those poly fills. And some of the low spots, but we're going to do a little wet sanding and see how much we can level this out. I'm going to stay away from the edges, just wet sand the flat spots here, and then when we get to the contour, just be very careful as I go there. I am not looking to burn through, that's for sure. I've just got a little water with some few drops of soap, dish soap in there, just to give it a little lubrication. And away we go with my wood block.
So coming in here nicely with some pretty fine grit sandpaper with a wet sand, and using the water with a little bit of dish soap in there for lubrication helps it slide a bit more, and it really does change things when I do a wet sand as opposed to a dry sand. That dry sand can really gum up the paper, so the wet sand does get it down nicely without damaging what I've got. It does get the guitar pretty wet though. Then we're back out for another top coat of poly to then build up that finish.
So here we are now with 3 coats of polyurethane on here. I did a coat and some sanding and a coat and some sanding, and now I've got my final, what I hope to be my final coat on. A couple little bumps and things just from debris that got in there during the spraying process. I'm going to do some wet sanding starting with 500.
So again, coming through with some sandpaper, and we're looking to knock down those high spots. So this was a back and forth process of just trying to level out the guitar as best I could, and the wet sand with high grit gets it done. Well, we got that body all nicely looking good with that poly coat on there, and it is looking ready to rock. But we have to have something to attach to the body. That's where the neck's going to come into play. So now we're going to hop on. We're going to do some leveling of the neck and the fretboard. We're going to go ahead and clean up those frets. We're going to crown them. We're going to polish them up, and we're going to apply some finish to the neck itself. And that's going to come at you right now. Time for a little neck work. We're going to make sure the frets are in good shape and the neck is in a spot where we feel we can get it joined to the body when the time comes. So I have my notched straight edge here, and I have it one side. If I put it down here is my 24 3/4 scale length, and then over here is my 25.5 inch scale length, which is what this guitar is. So I started here at my first fret, and it goes along, and then if I look down from the side, and this might be tough to see from the camera, it should be flat all the way along, and I can see that with no tension from the strings, it actually is lifting on the edges while it touches in the middle. And so what the first thing I want to do is going to be to flatten this neck out using the truss rod, and then check the level of all these frets, and then get them all nice and polished up. When we put it on the guitar and the string tension goes on, that of course will put some more tension on the neck, and adjustments to the truss rod may be needed to flatten it out, but we want to start at a flat position. So that's what we're up to this time. All right, so we laid down my notched straight edge here and just try and move that truss rod to get it nice and flat. I want the neck to be as flat as I can, so when I go through and level the frets, I know I don't already have some sort of arched neck that then the frets are not going to really be level with the wood of the fretboard. So it's important in this step to get that fretboard, to get that neck as flat as I can. So as I turn this on the side now, I can see I now do not really, it's tough on the camera here, do not really have a gap as I quickly run down, going down the neck. So that means I'm pretty flat, and I can now start to check the level of these frets. So come through here with a Sharpie and just mark the top of each fret after, of course, taping off the fretboard so I don't get any Sharpie marks on that. So then when I come through with my leveling beam, I can see the Sharpie getting taken off, and that helps me know when I've got it pretty well flat. So some of the higher frets will come down first, and the lower frets you might not take the Sharpie off, but as you go down lower and lower and lower, once all the Sharpie is gone, you know you've got all the frets now at the same level. I then come through with my fret rocker and just double check the level. There's a couple of spots where the frets kind of poked up a little bit and maybe didn't get leveled as I want them. So I just come through with a file, mark that spot where the fret leveler, the fret rocker was not level, and just spot treat those and go all the way up the fretboard with that to make sure I've got a nice, ready to go. So once that's done, I come through with the Sharpie again, and I Sharpie off all these frets because I'm now going to crown them. And again, I want to see that line disappear. So I'm coming through with my StewMac Z file, and as I level this, what it will do is it will leave a thin Sharpie line visible on the top in the middle of the fret, and that tells me that I've then crowned it off so it falls away front and back, and I know that I have one apex at the top of the fret where it is perfectly rounded off. And as we come up close and I move that, you can see that little line. Then it sure does look nice. So then I rinse and repeat all the way through the fretboard. There are a lot of frets here. It's a 24 fret guitar, but then I also have the 0 fret, so I have 25 total frets. A lot of work. So after doing a few, I decided to pull the camera up close so you can sort of see up close how this works. So the Z file, I go in one direction, then I turn the file over, and it does then the other side of the fret. So it really does a nice job of just leaving that apex right on the top and a nice thin line. It works well. So here we go with all of the frets. You can see, even with the glare coming off the frets, that there is a nice thin line on each fret, indicating that it's perfectly crowned, that that portion of the fret has not been taken away. So then I come in with my fret end dressing file and really clean up those edges so that there's no sharp corners and that it will feel really nice on the palm of the hand. This is some tedious work, but it does make it feel nice. I now come in with a popsicle stick with, I believe what I have here is some 3000 grit sandpaper. So I'm not looking to really take any metal away. I'm now just trying to polish. So I hit it first there so I can get the edges of the fret. Then I come in with some 4O steel wool and hit it there. And then I hit the side of the fret with that popsicle stick. And then I come back with some even higher grit sandpaper attached to a little felt pad and buff it off there. And look at those 2 frets that you can see. Very, very nice indeed. High polished up. So here is my sophisticated little buffing chamber I've made here. I've got a cardboard box and the neck in here. I'm gonna come in with my Dremel tool, and the problem is when that thing gets spinning, it just sprays all of the buffing compound all over the place. So I figure if I put it in this box, I'll be able to contain all of that overspray. Here is my little Harbor Freight buffing tool. I'll come in from one end and we'll go ahead and get these frets buffed up to a nice shine. So here we go here, just putting a little bit of that compound on the first fret, and then I turn it on and boom, you can see it flies off. That would be all over my shop, all over my clothes, everywhere, but putting it inside this cardboard box actually helps keep that contained. And I just go over each fret and buff it out, a little back and forth, up and down. So here it is. Just a little bit of grime on it from all the overspray, but the polishing complete now. Looking very nice, everything extremely smooth and uniform. I'll now go through and I'll take the tape off, and then I'll protect the fretboard with some tape on the top, and I'll go ahead and sand the sides and back. We'll get some of that other dirt off the side of the fretboard here, clean it up generally, and then we're going to go ahead and put a little finish on it. So here we go, taking off all this tape. It is a fairly satisfying feeling when you do that. With the tape stripped off, I'm coming on here with a little 1000 grit, and we'll just do a little bit of sanding. I protected the frets just with some tape, not really the corners because I do want to clean the side up here. So yes, going through with this fine sandpaper, not looking to really take much wood off, just looking to clean it up, really get it smooth. So I have the neck completely stripped of all the tape. I've cleaned it off as best I can, and I'm now going to apply some boiled linseed oil to the surface of the back of the neck and the fretboard. This will condition and harden that neck, and we will apply that on. It's a pretty easy process. I then let it dry here for a couple of days, and we see what we've got. Let's get to it. So boiled linseed oil is something I first saw on some videos from the YouTube channel Highline Guitars, and it's a nice channel with some good building tips that I've certainly picked up along the way. And one was this, because boiled linseed oil is fairly readily available right down at Home Depots and Lowe's and such, whereas true oil and some other things are harder to come by, and this seems to do the trick. So I oil this up, it kind of soaks into the wood and then polymerizes or just hardens those open pores. I'm not really too sure of the chemistry, but it sure does make a neck feel good and protects it. It doesn't leave an oily finish. It's not the kind of finish that you put multiple coats on to build up a finish. 1 or 2 coats and it's pretty much done. And there it is, looking nice. Well, there we go, folks. We've got the body that has been sealed and polyurethane clear coated, and then the neck that we've done some nice fretwork on and then applied that boiled linseed oil finish to it, and they're ready to rock. So we'll be able to go to the next steps of putting those together, electronics and the whole thing, on future videos coming at you. Thank you for sticking in here to the end of the video. I'd like to say that if you're enjoying this type of content, if you're liking the videos, go ahead and hit that like button, press the subscribe button, and ring that bell for future notifications, and you'll know the next time a video is coming out for you. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time on JRG Guitars.
JRG Guitars.